Tonight on the Your Life Matters Show podcast.
I think I've always had to kind of do adult life alone and struggle alone. Like I had a partner that just didn't get it. Um, and then I met Tim, and I feel like it's actually like, what's the like a partnership. It's not just I'm not doing it alone. I'm supported. So
You have a teammate. Is that?
yeah, yeah.
And for me, I think the first thing that popped into my head when you asked the question is I think I'm less vulnerable now.
Behind every struggle, there's a story, and every story deserves to be heard. This is the Your Life Matters Show podcast. Your hosts are Steve Hodgson and licensed psychotherapist Dr. Eric L. Davis. Some battles happen quietly. No headlines. No audience. No one watching. Just a person trying to make it through another day. Anxiety that freezes you in place. Depression that steals your hope. Stress that makes even simple things feel impossible. And sometimes, thoughts that whisper, maybe it would be easier not to be here at all. Millions of people live with these struggles every single day. But tonight, this isn't just about statistics. This is about survival. Years ago, Tim Maille reached a moment where he wasn't sure he could go on. But in that moment, one small life gave him a reason to stay. A rescue dog named Murray. A bond strong enough to save a life. That decision changed everything. It led to purpose. It led to helping animals in need. And eventually, it led to love. Lauren Maille knows the weight of anxiety, the exhaustion of stress, and the darkness of depression. Moments when the world felt overwhelming. Moments when moving forward felt impossible. But healing doesn't always happen alone. Together, they found strength. Together, they found hope. Together, they built a life neither thought was possible. Tonight is a story about choosing life, about facing mental health struggles head-on, and about discovering that even in the darkest moments, hope can still be found. Because no matter how dark the road becomes, you must always remember your life matters. This is the Your Life Matters Show podcast. Here are your hosts.
Well, howdy, and welcome back to the Your Life Matters Show podcast. I'm Steve Hodgson. I'm here with the person who trains me to be functioning human every single day. Licensed psychotherapist.
It's a difficult job, but somebody's got to do it.
Yes, it sure is. Dr. Eric L. Davis. Dr. Davis, I think we're going to have a very good show today. A very interesting guests that we have. Okay, and, in all, fairness, I mean, he is a friend of mine. And number two, he's actually been on the Your Life Matters Show podcast going back a little bit. And I even used the clip, I think, of him with us on one of our shows, too, about the suicide. We grabbed that little clip. But, he's with his wife. And, this isn't really a feel-bad type of show, that we're going into. This is more going to be a feel-good show because this is a story about people that, turned their lives around and found happiness with each other.
I think maybe a way to say it is this is a show about when things that are bad can end up being really good and beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And
they are, and you know what? I mean, I know Tim doesn't like compliments, but they are a beautiful couple, and they're really two great people. Sometimes when you hear people are meant for each other, I think they're meant for each other.
Yeah.
So okay, so today we're going to be talking about some very hard and real personal mental health struggles as well. Anxiety, stress, depression, recovery, and how people find their way through life's difficult season. Now, before we bring our guest on, Dr. Davis and I would like to talk a little about what people experience when they're dealing with severe anxiety and depression. But before we get into it, I don't want to forget, let's take a listen to tonight's very important sponsor.
January came and went. We are sure you made your list of New Year's resolutions. Then February was here, then March, then April. If you are being honest, they were not resolutions. They were wishes so you would become a better you. For many who are suffering with some type of mental health issue, whether it be anxiety, stress, PTSD, marital issues, female issues, anger management, depression, grief, self-esteem, loneliness, gambling addiction, or substance abuse, any of the other resolutions are going to be difficult to achieve if you first do not make a resolution to take care of yourself first. At Waypost Counseling, we have helped many people begin that new journey even when it seemed hopeless. Some think the only way out is suicide. We are here to tell you, there is help. There is no need to continue to struggle alone. It is time to reach out and ask for help. And we want you to know that is not a sign of weakness. Instead, it is a sign of strength, courage, and a willingness to face the challenges you are experiencing head-on. Do it for those around you, your loved ones, but most importantly, do it for yourself. If you have a computer or laptop, you can get help from the privacy of your own home. There is no need to come to the office anymore. You can get help from anywhere in the United States. Pick up the phone and call Waypost Counseling today. Dial 317-762-0904 or 317-659-0179. You can also visit us on the web at waypostcounseling.com and request an appointment. Dr. Eric L. Davis, Aaron Davis, and Jeff Gazier are standing by to assist you. Hit the reset button on your life, your marriage, and help you feel once again that your life matters. You need to take that first step. Call Waypost Counseling right now. You will be glad you did.
Because some people hear terms like anxiety or stress and think it's just everyday worry. But for many people, it's much more than that.
That's 100% correct. Anxiety and depression can affect people on so many different levels, emotionally, mentally, and even physically. For some people, anxiety can become so overwhelming that it actually stops them from functioning normally. Simple tasks can feel impossible, and people may find themselves frozen or unable to move forward. Depression can bring a deep sense of hopelessness and exhaustion, where even getting through the day feels overwhelming. And unfortunately, when those feelings go on long enough, some people begin to lose hope that things can never improve.
And I think that's something that a lot of people, they don't really completely fully understand how intense those experiences can be. And when someone's saying they're struggling with anxiety or depression, it can mean they're dealing with something much deeper than most people realize.
Exactly. These struggles are very real and they're very common. Millions of people deal with anxiety and depression every single year. But what often makes the biggest difference is connection, when they have support, purpose, and people who understand what they're going through. Recovery doesn't usually happen overnight, but with the right support, people can begin to rebuild their lives.
And that's really what tonight's show is all about. It's about people who face these struggles personally and who have worked through some very dark moments, only to come out the other side and to build meaningful lives. And I think a lot of people watching tonight may see parts of their own journey reflected in this conversation. I think that a lot of people need to understand a lot of what's going on tonight because, like I said earlier there, I think people look at, somebody having difficulty and they don't really understand what that difficulty is, where it's really coming from.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to that than what we're talking about. So, Dr. Davis, before we bring our guests on, and it's going to be a really great show, I know it, I can feel it in my bones. I'd like to ask you a few questions that will help frame the discussion for tonight. Okay. One of the things we'll be talking about tonight is something people sometimes describe as anxiety paralysis, where anxiety becomes so overwhelming that a person feels stuck or frozen. Tell us a little about that. What that is.
Well, basically, exactly what you just described, where, anxiety leads to muscle tension, clenching of the jaw, lots of different things. And so, in the case of anxiety paralysis, it would be where that is happening to the point that a person cannot move, even when they're trying to.
Yeah, and it's involuntary.
Hmm.
Sometimes, I think, as our guest will tell us, I think from what I remember reading about it, one of the times happened at a concert. So it's not, this, does it seem to just have an onset just out of nowhere? Can it do it to you?
Yeah,
Or,
it can.
yeah, because I guess in her case, that's really what happened. They were in the middle of watching a concert when it just
Yeah.
froze and stuff. That's scary to me. Okay, what actually happens psychologically when anxiety reaches that level where people feel like they just can't move forward?
I would say that's when it's time to, stop, basically stop, take a look around and reevaluate, how things look in our life because the thing is with anxiety disorder, and I don't always share this, but I have anxiety disorder. I've been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. And so it's something that I just have to be aware of. Like when I'm driving or when things get stressful, I have to be extra vigilant about how I'm feeling and how I'm and make sure that I'm responding to things versus reacting, if that makes some
Yeah,
sense.
it does because I mean I think we especially when driving we react more than stuff. And I used to be that crazy driver, oh what the hell are you doing and stuff. But you know what I laugh it off now. I don't know how I've learned to do that, but it's just like another moron. I mean that's what I tell myself in my head. Okay, another moron, and in the area I live in, I think some people bought their licenses. I don't think that they actually passed road tests. So, stress is something that everybody experiences. But at some point, the stress crossed the line from normal pressure into something that can seriously impact a person's mental health. And for you, what are some of the warning signs that we should pay attention to?
So in answer to the first part of the question, absolutely. Um, you know, s- Stress is a normal thing, obviously, and like our body, we call it a stress load. And actually, stress load like accumulates over time. And so that's one of the things that when a person experiencing anxiety sits down with a therapist, in addition to talking about how they're feeling, we're also going to take a look at what's going on in their lives. So with that, the warning signs you really want to look for would be when stress becomes immobilizing. So, like if you're finding that it's just harder and harder to complete, regular tasks. So to look for depressed symptoms, or another thing is with generalized anxiety, something you could look for is if you're feeling worried, but then when you really start to take a look at things to find out the reason for feeling that way, you can't find anything, and that's where with generalized anxiety disorder, the person will just feel anxious for no reason, sometimes for a reason. And there's two types of anxiety. The normal anxiety that we typically see is what's called acute anxiety. And that's anxiety that's attached to things that actually happen. So that would be like if you have a fender bender and then you're, anxious the next time you get in the car, that's, the brain is trying to protect us for good reason. But it's when the anxiety itself becomes maladaptive, or immobilizing is really a key indicator. Or if you're just struggling, don't wait till you're completely immobilized to address it would be my advice to anybody.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize sometimes when their stress level has gotten that big,
Yeah.
and that overwhelming because they're so
Yeah.
stressed. I don't think they can think straight. You know?
What's kind of wild too, something I noticed just in my own experience was, I ran a treatment center for 20 years. And,
Mhm.
obviously there's a lot of stress that goes into that. It was a big operation with lots of moving parts and everything. And I always thought, well, I'm not that stressed. But what I now know, after kind of changing what I'm doing and focusing on private practice is I just didn't have a frame of reference. I really didn't. I didn't really understand what life could look like if I wasn't dealing with all of that. So that's something else to keep in mind.
See, I always laugh when, again, owning my own business all those years,
Yeah.
people think, gee, that must really be nice. No, you have no idea. You go to work every day, you get paid, and you go home. Okay, we
Yeah.
got to worry about how you get paid.
I'll never forget one of my best friends in the world, Mike. Um, I remember this would have been like 26, 27 years ago. But when Tom Prendergast and I were starting Life Recovery Center, and so I was, we're starting it, and it got to the point where I was going to go full time. And I remember telling Mike, I was so excited, I was like, "Oh, it's going to be great. I'm going to have all this extra time." And I'll never forget. I just heard, he did. I mean, he just belly laughed,
Yep.
about that because he was like, "Well, you'll learn that owning a business doesn't mean free time."
It has a little bit of advantages, but very
Yeah,
little, very, very little.
yeah.
So now we talked about before on the show how sometimes it seems one big thing that helps somebody survive in a really dark period, something small. Sometimes it's so small that gives them a reason to keep going. Okay, why can something as simple as caring for a pet or feeling responsible for another living being make such a powerful difference for someone who's struggling emotionally?
I think because, like that's a perfect example would be a pet where there's a lot of emotion attached to that. So one emotion, hopefully, if you have an animal, is you're grateful for them, and so being grateful for that animal. And then when I'm grateful for things, I take accountability for them, so really I think that, animals love unconditionally. And that is one of the most beautiful things about having a pet. But I think that in moments of, you know, um, suicidal ideation and things like that, people really think that, what would be the point of moving forward? And that animal, well, that's one of the points of moving forward.
Hmm.
That animal needs us, so I highly recommend that anybody, really anybody and everybody get a pet because honestly, I mean, what we find is that emotionally having a pet, that you care for and love and that loves you back, is one of the best medicines for our mental health that there
And
can
but
possibly
just
be.
make sure you're going to take care of that pet too.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. Do
Yeah.
not,
Having a
don't,
pet doesn't mean putting it outside on a leash
no.
all day long too.
Yeah.
So, um, now when
It
people,
also it also helps us to learn about relationships,
Mhm.
like human relationships. But go
Yep.
ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's really true because, you know, I know you're the same way, okay, with your pets. Okay, and if you noticed on the camera once I was looking off to the side because,
Yeah.
my little
Mine are
dog
out.
is over there too.
Yeah,
Okay,
mine
I
too.
don't know. I know there's one behind me, one probably is under the bed in here someplace. So who knows? They're all over the place. But yeah, they rely on you for so much. Now, what I was going to say was that, when you're at that point where you're thinking about suicide and stuff, you're not thinking of clearly
Mhm.
at all. And
And
going in,
suicide, I want to make sure and say this. The problem with suicide, or on YouTube, I guess we should say the problem with unaliving,
Mhm.
is it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah. I mean, at least 99.9% of the time it's going to be.
And that's the thing, and that's why I was going to say, it sounds like our commercial, but dialing 988,
Hmm.
I mean, really, if you're at the point where you think, well, that's it, there's nothing else here, guess what? Just, like they say with a doctor, get a second opinion.
Yeah.
Pick
Yeah.
up the phone, just listen to what they got to say.
Yeah.
You know what? And then if you do it, well, you know what? Hey, you even tried.
Yeah.
and stuff. So, I highly push that. And I know our guests will push that too.
Yeah. 988's a great resource.
Yep. Now, when people begin to recover from depression or anxiety, many say finding purpose always plays this really important role in their lives. So, how does having a sense of purpose make such a difference in mental health recovery?
Because I mean, when we have a purpose, it gives us reason. It gives us reason for the things that we're doing. And I think I can't begin to talk about how important just a feeling of purpose is for human beings in general, because it's meaning making. Purpose, having a purpose is meaning making. So it just it's a constant reminder of why, and that's important.
Another part of tonight's story, which is true, it's about two people who each faced their own mental health struggles and found strength together. So
You mean
how can,
us? I'm
yeah.
just teasing.
So how can supportive relationships help people heal? And what makes a relationship healthy for someone dealing with anxiety or depression?
So having relationships, number one, it's connection. So that's the obvious, connection is important. When we are feeling depressed and anxious, isolation can be one of the most dangerous places for us to be. So not only does it's when we bring others into our lives and or allow them to be a part of our lives, we're getting more perspectives, as far maybe what we're thinking's wrong. And if I have close friends that I value their opinion, I trust them, then that's somebody I can trust to run something by, and they're going to tell me one way or the other. So connection, perspective, just like anything else, two people can do more than one typically, So, and I think emotionally that's true as well to some degree.
For our listeners, and sometimes I even think for my own head, why are shows like this one especially powerful for people who might be sitting in a dark place?
I think because we all have been there. I mean, I think we all have experienced our down times or, anxiety, depression, grief, and loss. And I think it's just that there again, it is something that a person can connect to see I'm not alone. Like I am not, if I'm having a bad day today, I can rest assured I'm not the only person having a bad day. I'm the only person that's me having a bad day, but others can relate. And I always think of this is just a side note, but respect, RESPECT. I always look at that as just simply remembering or saying, realizing every single person experiences common things.
Okay.
Because if I keep that in mind, not only am I not alone, but I can relate to others. And I don't have to be afraid to say, "Hey, I'm really struggling right now."
Did
You
Aretha
know?
Franklin sing that part in the song?
No, I don't think so, but it'd
No.
be really cool if she did.
Yeah,
She
I know.
she she she
It would have
spelled
been
it out.
it could have been a good theme song, for
Yeah.
mental health. Okay. Well, tonight we're going to have two people who really is exactly that kind of story. And that's why we're doing this tonight. Our very special guests tonight are Tim and Lauren Maille. They both faced their own mental health battles, and we're really grateful they were willing to share their journey with us. So, some of you might even remember Tim from an older version of the show where I did with him and we talked about life, suicide, love of animals, shelters, even the paranormal. Now, the link for that show is in the description. And folks, and you can hear how far my health has come along too, because you hear my voice. Back then, when I went back and listened to it, I was like, wow, that was me. Okay, I really sounded gravelly stuff. So the breathing and stuff is doing a little better. But tonight, we're privileged to have Tim's wife, Lauren, is going to be joining us too. They're two amazing people. Each of them have truly amazing stories. So let's get right into it. So, Tim and Lauren, we're excited to extend a very warm and gracious welcome to the show. We're so glad both of you can join us for this important episode about mental health. Now, I want to start with Tim if I could. Usually we start with the ladies first, but we'll start with Tim. Because, Tim, you joined me a few years ago, and you shared a very powerful story about a moment in your life when you were struggling deeply and the love you had for your rescue dog, Murray, who helped you choose to keep going. And for our listeners, there is a link in the description of this video that you can go back and watch that whole interview, because that was a really great interview. We talked about your book and everything else in there too. So, but looking back now, how do you see that moment in your life compared to where you were that day?
Well, first and foremost, when you mentioned Murray, I could smile again.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times in interviews, when people mention Murray or I mention Murray, I get teary-eyed and start crying. Just incredibly grateful for that moment, him being there and giving me that second chance. For folks that aren't familiar, he walked in right in the middle of an attempt to take my own life, and he's the reason I'm here. So everything that happened from early 2007 to today, I can attribute to that one moment and him changing the course of history for me and a lot of people and a lot of animals. So just incredibly grateful. Every day is still about thanking him, because I don't get that second chance if he doesn't walk in.
Yeah. If you would, and if it's not a problem, please take our listeners back to that time and explain what transpired that made you consider taking your own life.
I think it was a combination of a lot of things throughout my life, and then the final straw was a failed relationship thing. And at that moment, I thought, boy, I'm never going to have a great life here. This is horrible. This is the lowest moment in my life. Of course, now I realize, everything happens for a reason. I look back at it now, and it's just, I wouldn't say it's silly because it's a part of me. But in that moment, I felt the lowest I've ever felt. And I think it was a combination of, childhood, early adulthood, and then this happening. At the same time, I also found out that I couldn't have children. So it was all those things wrapped into one. And I didn't think I had another way. And thankfully, while I was in that lowest moment, Murray walked into the room and just simply put his head on my arm. And I looked down at those beautiful brown eyes of his, and it snapped me out of it. And I don't know if he doesn't walk in if I snap out of that. So just incredibly grateful for the opportunities that I get, not just in regular, ordinary life, but also in the paranormal world.
The reason we're doing this story today is because it's not to focus on any of suicide attempts or anxiety and stuff. We're trying to show the audience, we've covered a lot of those topics in our past shows, but you gave us a very unique opportunity, or at least what I saw right away, of showing that, okay, people have been through a lot. And we're going to get into what Lauren's been through in her life and everything too, but how you can come out of that. And how you can come out of that so positive and realize that there's a whole life ahead of you. And we're hoping that that message can get out to other people and realize that, hey, you know what? I may have been sitting with Tim sitting right now. I may be sitting in that situation and think there's no way out of this. Okay, but look at what he went through. Okay, and he's turned the negative into such a huge positive. I mean, I've known Tim now for a number of years. I've met you a few times at some Paracons and stuff. You keep stealing Scott from me. So, we're supposed to go out to dinner, afterwards. But, it's fine. We've all got together, and, I know personally what a great person you are. I think we actually sat years ago, Now I'm making me sound old and you old, but at a Paracon, and we sat and talked for hours, and we talked about your book and everything else. And I knew from the moment I walked away that day what a great person I had just met. Even my wife Jen said the same thing. So,
Yeah.
and I'm sure
I
that's
really
something
appreciate
Lauren
that.
doesn't already know
Yeah.
as she's sitting next to you. So,
Yeah, I don't take compliments very well,
well,
but, but I appreciate it. And one of the things that I don't think I was prepared for when I started sharing my story was how it would affect other people. And looking back at it, it's incredibly naive, but I wasn't ready for that. And when people started coming up to me and sharing their story and telling me about their issues, I realized that there was an opportunity to really make a difference.
right.
That's awesome.
And that's
That really
really
is,
what
man.
this
Like,
show
that's
is
awesome.
about, too. You know, we're doing this not just to hear ourselves talk. We're hoping our actual mission on this show is if we can help one person each episode, then we've done our job. You know, we don't monetize this. I mean, we have 23,000 people that watch this every week. We're just out trying to help people. That's all it is. So now, there's no question that Murray meant a tremendous amount to you. I mean, I know that personally, but from interviewing you all this time, anyone who knows you knows that. But being able to look back now, in what way did your relationship with Murray help you heal during that difficult time?
I it made me care about something other than myself. Um, I loved him far more than I ever loved myself. And that's the honest truth. Um, I would have dove in front of a car for that dog. And he changed my life by showing me that it's you are able to love yourself or love not only yourself but love others more than you love yourself. And I think, as sad as it might sound, that at 31 years old, I think that was probably the first time I experienced that. It wasn't a dog and an owner from that day forward. It was like a father-son relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, I still talk to him. He's been gone for, man, 6.5 years. This April, we're doing a fantastic event, raising money for animals. And on that day, he would have turned 20.
Wow.
So it's surreal. Looking back at where I was and who I was before I had Murray in my life, I say a lot of times that if you'd have met me at that part of my life, nobody would have liked me. I didn't like me. You know, obviously, I didn't like me. But he taught me how to be a better human.
Out of that difficult time, you went on to start Pawtograph for Pooches, helping shelters take care of animals. Why did you go about starting the agency, and how did helping animals become part of your own healing process?
I wanted to create a legacy for him. That when he was gone, that people would remember him and the difference that he made. Not only in my life, but now in the lives of thousands of shelter vets. In the last, man, how long have we been doing this? 13 years? We've raised just under $150,000 for shelters around the country.
Wow.
And that all started from our first event where I sold one picture and we raised $10. So it was not an overnight success. And some of these events can be very emotional and tiring. But at the end of the day, it's all about just continuing that legacy for him. And any chance I get to talk about him and tell his story, I absolutely jump at that.
You know, it's amazing. If you keep watching, every once in a while you see me look over. That's because my dog is sitting right there and staring at me. You know, while I'm doing it. I've been editing all day, so he's been sitting staring at me like, when are you coming over and playing at some point? But, you know, I know that feeling when, you know, and that is like my child. You know, the dog, when I sleep at night, he sleeps on my head on the pillow. You know, he'll sit where it is. You know, I'll be sitting there watching TV. He'll put his head on my shoulder. You know, his face, you know, like over my shoulder and stuff. You know, they mean so much to us.
Yeah.
And we've seen through some of our past shows how important it is to people having that love and attachment to, to an animal. Because for me, it's not an animal. That's a living human being. Like you said, that's your child. No matter how you look at it, that's your child.
They teach us so much about unconditional love too. That's one of the most beautiful things about it.
I guarantee you right now, Dr. Davis has his 2 dogs down by his feet.
Actually, well, I would usually, but Mom's home, so they're upstairs with Mom. They're up there with Erin because I'm sure she's making food or something. So they're not down here with me.
Well, now, Lauren, I don't want you to feel left out of the conversation. As I told you earlier, we are going to include you in this. So now I got some questions for you. See, that's how we're going to do this. We're going to bounce back and forth. So if you're comfortable sharing, can you tell us a little about your own journey and how life with anxiety and depression and those experiences have been like for you?
So my story is a little different than Tim's. Mine started when I was very young. I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression at 7. I had gone into the kitchen one night and just threatened to kill myself in front of my family. I was old enough where I could recognize that I didn't want to be here, but too young to realize that the butter knife that I had grabbed wasn't going to do it.
Yeah.
My parents were basically told that they should institutionalize me, and they refused, thankfully, because I don't know if I would be the same person that is sitting before you. But I did start medications, therapies, counseling. And people always ask if something big happened, like some big traumatic experience. There was literally nothing. My brain is just wired differently. It just needs that medication. It needs that help. So growing up, there was difficulties. I was different. I know that like going to sleepovers and whatnot was awkward because I didn't want to have to bring my medication with me. And I did open up to some friends when I grew up, like in high school. I finally felt comfortable too. But then I had girls telling me that I was just looking for attention. So I think finally now that, my early 20s is when I probably really started feeling comfortable in my own skin to talk about it. But now obviously like when I've met Tim and we were able to share stories and basically open up this big platform, it's just like second nature now. It doesn't feel awkward. And I have a daughter that's actually also suffering from anxiety. So I don't want her to ever feel the way that I did. So I'm always just now been open and honest and raw.
I'd like to talk to you about the paralysis that you experienced. Some people describe experiencing something like anxiety paralysis, where stress and anxiety become so overwhelming that it feels impossible to move forward. Can you describe what that experience was like for you?
Well, that was very different and very strange. That was actually probably only like 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was about 2 years.
I had just gone through a divorce and custody exchanges, and that's really honestly the first time that it had gotten to that point where I just couldn't move. I could tell we were always having like more stressful or more like hard conversations when they were happening. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think the first time that it happened, I just kind of looked at him and I was like, I can't move. And he just kind of looked at me like, what do you mean? And I was like, seriously, I cannot. Like, I don't know what's happening, but I cannot move my body. I was always cognitive though, and was able to talk. But very strange. Very strange.
See, now, Tim, you probably, like me, the moment you started saying that, we think back in the paranormal, where people talk about how they're in bed and they're frozen, and they just can't move.
Well, my first thought was we need to get you to the hospital, and then she refused that. So we kind of waited it out against my better judgment, and she was fine later that night.
Well,
first time.
Well, I want to add, because I was just going through the divorce. I didn't have insurance. So it was very much that was a last resort. Mm-hmm. And I had agreed that if by morning it wasn't any better, then we could move on to the hospital. But they honestly have only lasted maybe like a half an hour. Nothing longer.
Yeah, but I bet you that half hour felt like almost a year. When it was happening, yeah.
Especially the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was, I know it was scary for her. And I mean, we had not been dating for long. And for this to happen, your first instinct is to help, and then you don't know how. So thankfully, she came out of it, and we haven't had one of those episodes in a long time.
Yeah.
So what? So you keep saying that was the first one, and just out of curiosity, then what was the second one?
Was I in the car or was?
There was one in the car, and then there was one at a concert.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And the concert one was fun because I think people just assumed that I had like too much to drink, and I was, incoherent that way, but that's not the case. Yeah.
A lot of folks, she was sitting on the ground, and a lot of folks stopped by and kind of gave me that look, like, "What did you do to her?" Because it was a country concert. I'll just come out and say it. And it was uncomfortable that way because I had to keep explaining to strangers that no, my wife is fine, or my girlfriend at the time. She is fine. Nothing has happened to her. I promise. Everything's okay. But yeah, so for it to happen so publicly like that, that was the most challenging one.
Yeah, they probably thought you took like a bad trip of acid or something like that, and you just couldn't get up off the floor. That's probably, if I had walked by and just saw you sitting there, I'd probably think, "Wow, okay, those are some good drugs."
Yeah, I think people did think that.
Yeah, I'm quite sure they did. Okay, well, no matter what kind of a concert it was. So during the most difficult times, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced internally? Now, obviously, we know the external, what people were seeing. What were you feeling inside?
I think the biggest thing is feeling alone. I mean, even aside from the paralysis, just when you're in a really low place, you feel alone. And then that's like the worst feeling. So it just kind of spirals deeper.
But does it feel like, being frozen, is it basically like being frozen where you can't move, or is it like you're moving so much you're not moving at all? Like, how does it work?
You literally just cannot move. Like and that's what, it's so weird or hard to explain because my brain was so desperately being like, just lift up your arm, like move your arm, and you just like, it didn't do anything.
Well,
I would imagine that was really scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
What were you saying? I'm sorry.
When it happened in the car, you had asked me to like reposition your head.
Did I?
Yeah, because you couldn't hold your head up, so you wanted me to help you with that while I was driving.
I was just going to say, I'm glad she wasn't driving. Okay, when you said in the car.
Yeah, you and me both.
Yes, because that would probably be a little scary in itself. Now, Tim, you've been living, or you had been living, I should say, a single life for a while before you met Lauren. Can you tell us about how the two of you met and how your relationship began?
We met at Michigan Paracon in Sault Ste. Marie, 2023. And I had noticed that there were a group of ladies from Wisconsin. I'm from Wisconsin. So we sent over drinks, and they came over and talked to me, and like Tony, and
I think we did introduce ourselves first to you.
Yes.
At the table.
Yeah. And that's how I knew you were from Wisconsin.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it just started out as a friendship, and we kept in touch probably 3 months, maybe, after we met. After talking back and forth and trying to convince ourselves that this wasn't a good idea, we just basically gave in. We're like, okay, fine. I guess you and I are together. And it was just amazing that I had to drive 7 hours to the northernmost part of Upper Michigan to find somebody that lived 30 minutes away from me. And we hit it off since the beginning. And it's only been 2.5 years, but it seems like so much longer than that, in a good way.
Yeah, it does actually seem longer than that. And just watching from the outside, I actually thought it was more than that too. But I've been so happy for the both of you. I should say for you, and I've never even met you before tonight. Okay, but yeah, I really was. I was happy for the both of you because just from the pictures, you could see how happy you guys look with each other. You know that you look at each other like, we actually look like that.
No,
I mean, that's what that look like to me now. Okay,
we've said that before.
Yeah.
We've actually like compared past pictures and compared now pictures, and you can just like see it in our eyes. Even like when we're not in a picture together, and it's just like like a selfie, you can just see there's a difference.
yeah, you're a lot more content with life. You know,
Yeah.
there's something there.
Now, Lauren, you've experienced mental health struggles in different ways. How have you supported each other through difficult times? So, like, how have you guys helped each other during those times?
Usually, we're really good at just turning off our own crap and somehow supporting the other person. I mean, there's obviously times that it hasn't always worked, but there are other times where one of us is clearly struggling, but they turn it off to help the other.
So let me ask you then, for both, this question's really for both of you. Do you think that shared experiences with mental health has helped you understand each other in ways that other people might not?
I'm going to start out by saying yes. I think it helps us understand, but it doesn't make it any easier. And the reason I say that is because there will be times where both of us are struggling.
Yeah.
And then the conversation will turn to, but my issues are not less important than yours. And they're not. And you really try to be there for the other person, but there's sometimes you're just in that headspace where you can't be. And it's frustrating for whoever it happens to, because we want to be there for each other.
Yeah.
But heaven forbid we're both having the same shit day. Sometimes that makes it more difficult, but at the end of the day, we both understand each other a little bit better than, if we had one normal person and one person, and I say that in tongue in cheek, but
Right.
but we're very good at supporting the other person. But there's also times where I think we need to recognize that maybe we're not in the right headspace to help one another. And those times are usually pretty few and far between.
Yeah.
So, again, for both of you, what helped each of you to begin to face your mental health struggles rather than run from them?
Because mine started so young, I think just family influence, and being very open about that and being supported that way.
For me, I don't know that I didn't run from them. For the longest time. And the reason I say that is because it took that episode with Murray
Yeah.
for me to finally get it and to snap out of it. And then from that point on, I put everything I had into him, and my sole focus was him.
Yeah.
So
But that probably helped.
it did. I mean, I had a purpose.
Yeah.
My purpose was him. My purpose eventually became Pawtographs for Pooches. One of the things with people that have mental health, depression, anxiety, we always need to have something to look forward to. So if you see me maybe tomorrow announcing an event in Wisconsin in September, it's because I need something to look forward to. So that's always been a thing for me, is we're always looking forward. Another thing with me is I'm never really satisfied with myself.
Yeah.
I'm my own worst critic. I really
Now,
am.
you do know that expectations are pre-planned resentments, right? Have you ever heard that before?
No, I have not. But my expectations for myself, when we do a Pawtographs event and we have to speak,
Yeah.
I've never walked out of a speaking engagement going, "Wow, I killed it." I never have, because I always think that I've failed, and it takes everybody else to look at me and go, "Tim, that was amazing."
Yeah.
And still, like I told you earlier, I don't take compliments.
Compliments, right?
And that goes back to me just never being satisfied with myself.
I think that's even how our friendship started. Is I tried to give you a compliment and you blew it off.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, I'm just going to message you a bunch of compliments then
Yeah.
daily, like daily affirmations.
Yeah. And then it got so bad that she was trying to set me up with other women.
Yeah, I did.
Really?
I said, get on the Tinder.
Get on the Tinder. That's great.
On the Tinder, okay?
I like it.
Swipe. Okay. You know, it's amazing because it seems to me that, you know, you guys have given each other a newfound strength for each one of you that you probably didn't have before. And that's part of that bond that really holds you guys together. I mean, correct me, am I wrong by saying that? I mean, I'm just basing that on what you've said so far, you know, this evening.
I personally think that's actually wrong for
Okay.
myself. I think I've always had to kind of do adult life alone and struggle alone. Like I had a partner that just didn't get it. And then I met Tim, and I feel like it's actually like, what's the word? Like a partnership. It's not just, I'm not doing it alone. I'm supported. So
You have a teammate. Is that?
yeah, yeah.
And for me, I think the first thing that popped into my head when you asked the question is I think I'm less vulnerable now, if that makes sense. I was more open then. It's harder for me to talk about my mental health stuff publicly. And I'm talking about like on social media and stuff. Because we are a team. And I don't want my complaints about my mental health to look poorly on Lauren. Because my worry is that people are going to read that and go, oh, things must not be going very well. He's feeling sad. And that's not the case at all. But I think I've become more guarded with that. Unless you see me at an event. And then I'm just crying and snotting all over everybody. But I think in everyday life, I've pulled back with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Was there a moment when each of you realized that life was beginning to feel hopeful again?
You can go.
I can go first.
Yeah.
I think it's the first time we did something like in public as a couple, and people seem to be genuinely happy for us. It never felt like there was an option for it to not work. Like from the moment we decided that we were going to be dating, it felt like we were supposed to be together. It felt like a little blonde boy that was watching over me from above had handpicked this one for me. And
That's one of the most beautiful ways I've ever heard. Like I'm being serious. That is one of the most eloquent ways I've heard. That like that's awesome. That is a beautiful thing to say.
yeah, there was never any doubt. Like I never once looked in the mirror and went, well, I don't know about this new one. This new girl here, I'm not sure if this is gonna work. She's got 3 kids, and one of the first things my best friend told her was Tim hates kids. And she looked at me and she said, he'll love mine. And I do. I still hate every other child that lives. I love her kids. I love her. I love how she interacts with all of my animals. My animals look to her like she's the best thing since sliced bread.
You just aged yourself so badly.
I did. I'm 50. I'm going to be 51 in 2 months. That's another thing. Like she's 36, so I like hit the jackpot. It's like I got the hot young wife. So it all worked out. But there was never a moment. Like, was there a moment where I felt hopeful? Yes, when we kind of came out publicly But I think the hope really started from the moment she stopped trying to hook me up with other women. Right?
How did you get through to him?
What do you mean?
To, that, hey, I'm over here too.
I didn't. I actually was the one, like, I was like, don't look at me. And I said, you cannot fall in love with me. I said that.
She did.
Well, he's a guy. You don't understand. Now, there's three guys in the room. We don't listen. That isn't a mental health issue. That's a natural born issue.
That's just turning on the selective hearing.
Yes. What'd you say? Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna have a little bit of fun now. Okay. We're in a lighter mood. Okay. It's the perfect time for the lightning round.
It's the lightning round.
Okay. So let's have a little bit of fun and enjoy ourselves. So 6 easy questions. Okay. First thing that comes to your mind. Now I'm gonna do the first round with Tim. And then Dr. Davis will follow right after that with 6 questions for Lauren. Okay, so here we go, Tim. You ready?
I'm ready.
Buckle down and ready to go? Okay. Number 1, describe Lauren in 3 words.
Oh, man.
Didn't say they were easy. I said they were fun.
Caring, beautiful, and funny. And I'm going to pay for saying she was funny because she will not let me live that one down.
Because you say I'm not funny.
I do.
Okay, number 2, if you could spend the perfect day doing anything together at all, what would it be?
My favorite days were us just sitting on the couch binge watching TV and just being with each other.
Okay, and I gave you this one earlier, so it shouldn't come as that much of a shock. Who said I love you first?
That would be me.
Okay. What is the one thing Lauren does that always makes you smile?
When she fart. Because I knew I'd get that look.
That's probably the best answer we've ever had to any of the lightning round. I will remember that one for years to come. Thank you.
You're welcome. I won't even change my answer now.
Okay. Your pets or Lauren? Who runs the house?
The pets.
Okay, what's the one thing about your life today that you once thought would never happen?
It's been a long time since I woke up feeling like the world was falling in on me. I wake up, I don't like my job at all, but I wake up with hope every day. And I never had that. Mm-hmm. So thank you.
Okay, Lauren, your turn in the hot seat. Same idea, just answer with whatever comes to mind first. What was your first impression of Tim?
That he was funny. But I could tell that you were like insecure or where I needed to, share the affirmations daily. Don't laugh.
I'm not laughing.
What's something Tim does that makes you feel supported?
I don't know that I could pinpoint one thing.
Okay.
Everything.
So sometimes you're just so amazing that you can't help it.
Well, she
Okay,
answered
who's
it. I'm
more-
going to take her answer when she said everything. So that, yeah.
Who's more patient between the two of you?
Me.
If Tim had a theme song, what would it be?
Something like The Simpsons or something. Like, something really goofy.
I was going to say not a wrestling song, but okay.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, yeah.
What's your favorite thing about your life together?
I think the fact that everything's just, like, I'm content. I think and like, before Tim, I was always chasing, like, the next thing, like the new pretty house or the dog or, the white picket fence. And I don't need that. Yeah. We could be living in a box.
And she keeps saying that, but if we had to move into a box, she would leave.
No, I wouldn't.
Well, don't ever find out.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. One word to describe your journey so far.
Healing.
Good answer. Now, I don't think I know the answer to this question, and that's really bad because I should be done my homework a little more. Are you into the paranormal as well, Lauren?
I am.
You are, okay. So, something we haven't spoken about so far is the paranormal, okay? Which now I both know that you share intensely the same thing together. And, Tim knows that's my love for the paranormal. It's been like that. I've actually been paranormal investigator for 50 years. So I know he knows that. But
Old.
Hey, that's how old he said he was. Okay, now wait a minute. You calling him old? We're supposed to be nice to our guests. Tim, tell us about Fox City Paranormal Team and your desire to learn more about the paranormal and helping those families in need.
Fox City's Paranormal Team is now 18 years old. I've been doing this for 18 years. There was about a 2-year period where we didn't get any calls to do residential investigations, and that was okay because we were building what we were building. And then just recently, the calls started coming in again, and Lauren was able to go on her first residential investigation with me. But she's also done investigations at events with me. We did the Hinsdale house where she learned what kind of investigator I am, and she wasn't a fan of it. Originally we started Fox City's Paranormal Team as a way to help families because when I needed help, I couldn't get anybody to answer my emails. And I didn't want anybody to feel like that. I didn't want anybody to feel like they weren't worth my time. And over the course of 18 plus years, we've done 300 plus residential investigations. And, maybe 225 of those have been just really quiet and nothing has happened. But there have been so many families that we've been able to help make comfortable in their home. And that's so rewarding for me. I didn't know how much I missed it until we did the investigation. And it just so happened to be an incredible investigation, and there were great people that we were helping. An investigation has gone well when they're hugging you and taking selfies with you at the end. Just a real good experience and a great first investigation for Lauren to join us. If I'm going to talk about Fox City's Paranormal Team, I've got to talk about Todd Earl. Todd has been doing that with me for 18 years now, has been helping me run the team. I couldn't imagine a better friend in this world than he has been. For all the things that I am, I think he's the opposite, and that's why it works so well. Like I'm the loud one, I'm the emotional one, and he's just a stoic rock. He doesn't say a lot, but if you get to know Todd, you can't get him to shut up. It's weird. But he's one of the greatest paranormal investigators I've ever worked with, and I've had the chance to work with so many greats, and I'm really thankful for those opportunities. But yeah, who knows how long we keep doing this stuff? As long as there's families that need help, I guess.
Well, you see, a lot of the investigations slowed down after COVID. And it took a very long time. Now, I haven't been on a home investigation myself. It's been like 2 or 3 years, at least. I mean, I know I haven't done any in Florida, and I've been here almost 3 years. So, yeah, I miss it. And I know once I do one, I'm going to realize how much I really missed it. Once I go back to doing it, so I get what you're saying. But I do have a question before Dr. Davis asks this question. But, okay, I want to go back to the Hinsdale house. Okay, you made a statement there, and you piqued this old man's interest. Okay, you said she didn't like the way you investigate. Now someone's going to clarify that because you said it. Okay, is it you're provoking or
no? I'm not really did the provoking. I just don't believe in it.
But so you weren't provoking, but you were challenging.
It's one of those things that if you've been to the Hinsdale house, and Dan's a very good friend, so I've had the opportunity to be there 3 times for Pawtographs events, and then once we just rented the place out.
And this was my first time there.
And one of the things about the Hinsdale house that I've learned over those repeated visits is a lot of the spirits in the home want to make you think they're tougher than they are. And I don't say that like disrespectfully. It's just they will challenge you. And I've gotten to the point now where, okay, you want to challenge me, I'm challenging you back. And I was doing that, and Lauren kept reminding me that it was only her and I staying the night there, and that perhaps I should shut up.
She was like, just
you
saying.
see, you're like me. No, that just makes it more interesting. Okay, at that point, I respect what you're saying because I'm never one to provoke something. That's silly to do that because if you want them to communicate with you some way, okay, you deal with them the way you would deal as if I was standing in front of you. To say, oh, come on, I watch some of that stuff with Zach and things sometimes. And, because you're a paranormal investigator, I see the smile. And I say nothing bad about people because I know you have a lot of people that come to your Pawtograph events that from TV shows and stuff. But, certain investigators, you'll provoke. I think they do that for ratings, personally, because I can't really see them doing that in person. An investigation. Now, remind me, I know I've been to Hinsdale House. Where is that? What state?
Hinsdale, New York. I think it's
New
about
York.
30
Okay, up by
minutes.
Niagara Falls. Okay,
Yep.
that's the one I thought. That's the one that's got the great fire pit outside.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my team that night didn't want to go in and finish investigating because it was a beautiful night and we were all sitting around the fire and nobody wanted to get up and go back inside and investigate. So, yeah, I remember that place very, very well.
Lauren, tell our listeners all about Buds and Bugs by Lauren.
Bud and Bugs is a handcrafted earring shop by me. It was kind of started during COVID time just as like a creative outlet and has blossomed into having my own domain and boutiques are hosting my items and yeah.
That's
And
cool.
didn't you
So
say
for
something-
listeners who want to learn more, where can they go online?
I'm on Facebook at Bud and Bugs by Lauren. Otherwise, my website is budandbugs.com.
Okay.
And that link will be actually in our description as well, because I know I've already put it in the typed description, so this way they know about it. But didn't I read a post? Was it today? And the folks that are listening, this is like 3 weeks ago. About that you've had like a sale almost every day now.
I have.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
did see that this morning. Then okay, I thought so. Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
It will, like everything, it will build. It just takes time for
Yep.
it to get there.
Yep.
Do you bring those items to the Paracons? Not the Paracons, but the events for the Pawtograph events
I
as
do.
well? Good.
Well, the paranormal inspired
Right.
stuff. Like we have little ghost dogs and ghost cats and those type of
That's
things.
good. That's neat.
So can you imagine there being animals and pets, Dr. Davis?
Yeah. You know what?
Pawtographs event, okay.
Hey, I want to know which I know we're going to talk about that in a second. When the next Pawtograph for Pooches, when's the next upcoming event or what's coming up in the near future?
Actually, our next event is April 10th and 11th at Ashmore Estates. That's not a Pawtographs event, but it is for suicide prevention.
Okay.
So we're happy to be a part of that. We're going to be there with Dustin Perry, Dana Stricker, and Jessica Potter for the weekend, just raising money for suicide awareness. And then 2 weeks later is the big event, Pawtographs Parafest 7.
April 24th and 25th.
Yes, and the 25th would have been Murray's 20th birthday, so we're going to celebrate him. Hopefully, are recording a documentary that weekend to air on Stream Beacon TV. Some of our headliners for that event are Dustin Perry, Scott Tepperman, Aaron
You
Sager.
said headliner. No, go ahead.
Yeah. Aaron Sager, Shane Pittman, Josh Purvis, Dan Class
From
of
the
the
Hinsdale.
Hinsdale House. 2 days of lectures, vendors, and then a little party afterwards with some karaoke, and hopefully raising a lot of money for Roscommon County Animal Shelter.
That's awesome.
So April's pretty busy for us. June, we head over to Minnesota and do an event at the Palmer House to benefit Tri-County Humane Society. July, we're out in Gettysburg for the
Man.
Gettysburg Battlefield Bash. We're speaking out there this year. August, we're at Ascension Con in Michigan. In September, we're actually doing an event in Green Bay here, our home.
Yeah.
The Pawtograph Packerland Paranormal Conference. I got it right that time. That might be the first time. So yeah, pretty full year for us. 6 events, and that's enough.
That's great, though.
Enough for me.
Now, just for our listeners, I know and you've hinted at it. What does the money go to that you raise at these Pawtograph For Pooches events?
We choose a shelter in the immediate area of the event. So for the event in April, it's Roscommon County Animal Shelter because we're in Roscommon County. We worked with them last year. They're great people. In June, we worked with Tri-County Humane Society. We were pointed in that direction by the previous caretakers of the Palmer House. What other one? September, we're working with a shelter that we're actually going to be doing some investigations here coming up.
Really?
So we're working with them and trying to raise some money for those folks.
Might be some ghost dogs and cats like Lauren was talking about.
It's all about picking something local so that the people that are local to the area feel like money stays there.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're giving money to something that they can tangibly see go to their area. We could just pick one and just keep going with that, but ultimately, if we're out in Pennsylvania, then you're probably not going to get a whole lot of people caring about a shelter in Wisconsin.
Right.
So that's always been something that I've strived for. It's become easier and easier the more established Pawtographs For Pooches is. In the beginning, we had a lot of shelters that didn't want to work with us because it was a paranormal event. So now that the money totals are bigger, a lot of those people don't hold those same
They don't
thoughts.
seem to care about, it's paranormal.
Yeah. They'll overlook it as long as they get the donation.
Yes,
But,
exactly. It's amazing what green does.
yeah. We've gotten an opportunity, and I have gotten an opportunity to work with some incredible shelters and see what they do on a daily basis. And I get a lot of credit. Lauren gets a lot of credit for what we do. But those folks that are out there in the field actually caring for the animals, rescuing the animals, those are the people that have the hard job. I just get to go and tell the story. I get to tell Murray's story, and we raise money for them. We have the easy part.
It's amazing. Now, while we're on Murray's story and Murray's legacy, talk to us about the Tim and Lauren, a new chapter, and milkshakes with the Maile. Okay, yeah, I do some homework. Go ahead.
Yeah, that one's on you.
So Murray's legacy is just the same as it always has been, even before I came on. But when we brought up how do we kind of make this a thing together, we did add the Tim and Lauren a new chapter, and that actually ruffled some feathers.
Oh, really?
People told him to be smart and to not, incorporate me, but it's not. It's like a
But he
benefit.
did anyway.
I don't take anything from him. We raise money and donate it. And then we kind of just, I don't know, what did we decide? Just to kind of go Facebook Live, and we're like, what do we call this thing? It's kind of like a podcast. Let's call it Milkshakes with the Mailes.
Yeah, it's the most
like non-conventional podcast out there.
Yeah, sometimes inappropriate. One of the things we didn't cover, and I should probably mention it because it'll make people understand a little bit better. When I met Lauren, I was ready to stop doing Pawtographs events. because the stress of everything and the pressure.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it anymore. It wasn't fun for me anymore. We had surpassed $100,000, and that seemed like a real big goal. And then after that, it was kind of like somebody let the air out of the balloon.
Yeah.
And I had talked about shutting down Pawtographs in 2024. I wanted that to be our last year. And at the time, it was just me. And right about the time that we realized that we were going to date and we didn't have a choice in the matter, Lauren looked at me and she said, if there was somebody that came along and could take some of that pressure away from you, would you continue to do what you want to do for money? And in that moment, I knew we had to push forward. But with that one question, it also made me think, okay, she's got to be a part of this. It has to be equal. Mm-hmm. So we came up with, Murray's Legacy, a new chapter, or Tim and Lauren, a new chapter. And there were some people that thought it was too early, and they were vocal about it. And those people are no longer around. Like on my social media, I didn't off them. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother show, man.
Yeah. But those are folks that you just, you don't need that kind of negativity in your life. So
I should also add, I'd never expected it to be an equal partnership at all. Never expected that. I was just going to be the helping hand.
Well, here's the thing, I'm going to relate it to my wife and I. All those years that I ran Street Smart, the web design company I had for 27 years, that was way before I had even met her. But when she came into my life, we got married and everything else, she was an equal partner in the company. And that wasn't, people, there was, but it's your company. You said, she's my wife. What's mine is hers. What's hers is mine. I mean, and we said earlier, men don't listen anyway. So, we're going to do what we want to do. And, me personally, I didn't see anything wrong with that. I expected that, believe it or not. I didn't know that you were trying to wind that down.
I think a lot of people just thought it was too soon. It was months.
Yeah.
We knew each other. But I mean, we already knew that we already tried to talk each other out of being together. Mm-hmm. So we were kind of this is a thing. This.
Are you guys glad you didn't talk each other out of it?
Yes.
Most things, yeah.
I was going to say, there was hesitation on the other side there, but we won't talk about that.
And that was the moment when Tim's night changed. I'm just teasing.
Tim learned that the couch isn't as comfortable as he thought.
That's right. And the dogs want to sleep on the couch too. And it's, but okay. I guess this is for both of you. And I'll let each one of you answer separately. If someone's watching tonight and they're struggling from anxiety, depression, even feeling overwhelmed by life, what would you want them to know? We're going to let Lauren take the first one because I'm going to go ladies first. I feel really bad. Okay, I've been doing you first. It's always ladies first. I was raised a gentleman.
Well, the first thing that immediately came to my mind was that if, they find us on social media, our inboxes are open. I know a lot of times it's just talking about it can be uncomfortable because there are people out there that there's a stigma. It's not as open as it should be. But for us, it is. So if they needed someone to talk to, we're available.
For me, I would go with my tagline from my old radio show that I used to do. I would end every episode with, "Tomorrow cannot be better if you were not here." Give yourself a fighting chance. It doesn't get better overnight, but I can tell you it does get better. Yeah. And like Lauren said, the inbox is always open. If you want to message both of us, message both of us. Make it a 3-person chat, and we'll be happy to talk to you. Mm-hmm. There's that old saying where I'd rather listen to you than have to go to your funeral type thing.
Yeah.
And knowing from experience, I think both of us would drop everything and listen to somebody if they truly needed to talk.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing because correct me if I'm wrong, Lauren, for your birthday, the fundraiser, didn't you do it for that 988 helpline?
I did.
Okay, I want to make sure my brain isn't there was somebody else, and it's like, oh no, I can remember it being that, and that's an amazing thing because every episode on this show, and it's probably even in our closing, I haven't even looked yet. Okay, we always talk about the 988 line, dial it, text it, but the reason we use that is because it's so important to reach out and talk to somebody. And you can talk to either, licensed, psychologist, psychiatrist, or talk to someone who's walked that walk. And in your case, both of your cases, you walk that walk. Deep down inside, probably more of what they're feeling than maybe even sometimes what Dr. Davis knows. Because you felt that exactly what that person is feeling at that very moment. Mm-hmm. It's a dark place, and it's a very hard thing to describe, but to someone who's lived it, you don't have to describe it. They know. Okay? Mm-hmm. And, I'm so glad that you guys are willing to do that with people, because that's so important. Anyone, at least my people that I know, when we talk about Tim and Lauren, you hear about how amazing that they both are. And now, even after tonight, now I've met Lauren, I can say, yes, they are two amazing people. Okay? As I said, we used to see ourselves across the Midwest for a number of years. We used to run at events. My wife is a psychic medium, so we used to be at Paragons all over the place. Have you seen Scotty Rourke, by the way? When's the last time you seen Scotty?
Scotty and I reconnected, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago? And we started doing a lot of. He's at the event in April. He's at the event at the Palmer House.
And in the fall.
And in the fall. So yeah, it's one of those things where we hadn't talked for a while, but then once we started talking again, everything picked up, and it was like I had my much older brother back again.
And he used to actually join you guys on investigations as well, didn't he? Yeah.
Yes. He hasn't recently, but I will still say this: he is the best psychic medium I've ever worked with, and that it's not even close. It really isn't. Yes. He's just he's that talented. And the joke I used to tell all the time when he wasn't at events would be like, "Scotty really is that talented. Just ask him." And
he'll blare it over the loudspeaker of his Ghostbusters vehicle there, the Ecto vehicle. Yeah.
But Scotty's one of those people that when you first started talking to Lauren, like it's like they had known each other for years and years and years and years. It was like she had a big brother. She's got a lot of big brothers now. She's got Tony. She's got Todd. She's got me. Well, I'm not a brother. That's gross. We're not brother and sister. You know what I'm trying to say. Scotty, Todd, Tony. We've progressed past brothers and sisters.
Again, that's a whole other show too, but okay.
Yeah, we can cut that out if you want.
No,
or leave it in. Makes us be human. But what I'm trying to get at is that for the folks that didn't think it was too soon, and for the folks that were actually behind us, I would say Lauren inherited quite a group of friends within the paranormal field. So there's good people out there within the field, and those folks prove it to me every time we do a podcast. And there's a puppy.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's my older dog. Believe it or not, she barks at everything. So I have 3 of them actually in the house. So at any point it can be anything. And usually Zoom is pretty good at suppressing the background noise, but that one was like, I think she was like standing right here when she barked. Okay, she heard my wife open the back door, the sliding door, and that's what the dog barked at. I gotta say, before I know Dr. Davis has a little spiel here, I gotta say, Tim, knowing you over these years has made me a better person. I've been happy in knowing you. I know you don't like, compliments and stuff, so too bad. You're going to get one now. Okay. But, as I said, when I met you, you were inspiring to me. And I'm hoping, and the reason I asked you back on the show, and I definitely wanted Lauren with you, was because if you're inspiring to me, you have to be inspiring to other people.
Yeah.
And like you said, we have, this show is about helping people. Okay, this is not about any fame and fortune because we're spending
There
money.
is
We're not
none.
making money. Yeah, there is no fame and fortune for. At least you get to talk in front of hundreds of people at a Paracon and at least get some kind of feedback. Okay, we sit here when we talk to each other on a screen and it's like, okay, Eric, see you next week. Okay, fine,
Yep.
that's it. That's our accolades, but know that you mean a lot to a lot of people, and from the people I know that's we share friends with, because paranormal is a very close community. Everyone I've met stands up for Lauren too. You immediately became part of us, the crew, and I really look forward to the day where I can travel up someplace and meet you in person too. So, because that would be great.
All right, to both, or do you want me to go ahead? Or?
Yeah,
I was just going to say I appreciate the kind words, but I still think you're lying. Thank you.
He is a liar. Don't believe
the
anything.
nose is growing. Okay, come on.
So both Lauren and Tim, on behalf of Steve and I, we want to thank you both for taking time out of your schedules to join us and share your stories with us tonight. I know you share the stories for the same reason we do on this show, and that is the hope that the story will resonate with someone and in a big way, and maybe help change someone's life. So thank you again for being on our show tonight. We can't thank you enough.
God
you
bless
for
both
having
of you, and thank you for being here.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, you guys.
So, Dr. Davis, after hearing Tim and Lauren's great story tonight, what stands out to you the most from a mental health perspective?
I think honestly, a lot stood out, but I think what stood out to me the absolute most goes back to connection again, where, for Tim, simply having that connection, he talked about that moment of connection, looking into the dog's eyes, and I think that that's powerful, and that's one of the reasons that if we're struggling, isolating can be dangerous because, just simply having that connection with his pet, made all the difference in the world and for him in that moment and put him on a totally different trajectory for his entire life. And that's amazing. There's nothing more beautiful than that.
We hear people say many times, I'm a pet lover.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, that's a pet lover. When you're talking to Tim and you start talking about rescue dogs and everything else, his whole eyes and face light up. He so much. And folks, I know we put a little note in the beginning. I actually was there.
He
for
was.
the
I'll vouch
interview.
for him.
Yeah, I literally was in that room asking those questions. Zoom started doing some very weird things the last couple of days, and we got it fixed now. But I was there. I thought about, we talked about me maybe recording my parts, but it would not have been as genuine
Yeah.
as I was there. So understand when you're hearing my voice, I was part of this conversation in the same room. Just Zoom for some reason did not want to record me. So now one of the things we saw tonight was that recovery isn't always a straight line. There are struggles along the way. Okay. And, it's like someone who's an alcoholic, as you're always an alcoholic.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How many people we've had on, I'm trying to Lander, Samantha Lander, who talked about how many times she struggled and fell along the way. It happens. So
I would say to anybody viewing, always remember, if you can't struggle if you don't try.
exactly.
So even if you're struggling, it means you're trying to do something. You're trying to accomplish something.
So from a professional standpoint, where does real recovery use? What does it really look like? I should say, dealing with anxiety and depression.
Recovery from anything in reality looks like a daily process, where and don't get me wrong, it's not like we start over every single day. I mean, we do, figuratively speaking, but like in recovery from substance use, for example, I always look at I love the saying, I may be further from the last one, the last drink than another person, but I'm no further from the next one than anybody else. And I think that's the realistic picture of recovery, that, it really comes down to just a daily series of decisions and goals, and it can be done.
And there's no question. I mean, both Tim and Lauren both talk about they struggle,
Hmm.
and sometimes it's great because one is there for the other. Sometimes
Yeah.
they're both struggling the same day, as Tim said, and I mean, that's kind of suck, in
Yeah.
that you're hoping that the other person will be there for you. But it's not a perfect journey. And we got to remember that too. Sometimes, when we see people get really quiet that have gone through some
Yeah.
some struggles in their life, they're probably struggling again in their mind.
Hmm.
And, just be there for them. They may not want to really even talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm really thankful that Tim and Lauren both talked about their struggles openly because
Absolutely.
they want to help other people. So, that's a great thing. Now, we talked tonight about relationships and purpose, that they played a big role in their journey. Why are connection and purpose so important parts of their emotional healing as well?
Because we have to feel, I mean, if you think about it, the one of the goals in our life is we want to feel good about what's happening. We want what we're doing to be rewarding and to feel good and to give us joy and happiness. And what was the second part of that question? I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Why are connection and purpose so important for the emotional healing?
So both of those make me a part of something,
Hmm.
like um, if I'm, if I feel like my purpose in life is to help others, then when I'm doing that I know that's the goal. I have clarity, that's what I can work toward and feel good about it. But both connection and what was the other thing you said? Good God, man.
Connection and purpose.
Both of those make us part of something. That'd be
Mhm.
my answer to that.
Yeah. And this is the final, but I believe a very important question, and probably what this show is all about. If someone is watching tonight and is struggling with anxiety, with depression, or God forbid, even thoughts of suicide, what specifically do you want them to hear right now?
The first thing is please don't. Number one, please don't. And number two, please take a moment and pick up the phone and dial 988 because you are absolutely worth it. And, you know, there's help out there. And no matter what's going on, you do not have to face it alone.
It's one of the things with, you have anxiety and depression. We've always said there's no sin in looking for help
Yeah,
and getting help. I think the sin is not getting the help.
I agree.
It's that, and there's resources that are out there. It's even way post counseling for
Hmm.
that matter. Okay,
Yeah.
if you have to. Um, One of the things that like our guests tonight, the reason they like to come on these shows and talk about stuff is so that their stories might relate to someone else and will help other people. Understand, be careful that, and I'm not talking about Tim and Lauren, but because they're not telling you what to do. Okay, you make sure you're getting your assistance from a professional.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we
Yeah.
talked about this in the last episode too. Um, you know, People mean well,
Yep.
okay, but they're only seeing their own part. Like I don't sit here and give advice. I might relate a story to it, but the person sitting right there is the
Yeah.
one giving the advice.
Yeah.
He's the licensed psychotherapist.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just two guys talking, and dispensing, take it or leave it advice, but we're at least giving professional advice. And that's the one thing, I really want to warn our listeners about It's okay to listen to somebody else because you might see part of your own story in that. Okay. But,
Yeah.
they're going to leave parts out of their own recovery. And those are important parts that, you need to know. And you're not going to know that if you're listening to things like that. So,
Yeah.
tonight was really meaningful conversation. Tim and Lauren shared a very honest look at what it's like to struggle with anxiety, depression, some difficult moments in life, but also what it looks like to keep moving forward. Now, you see, what stood out to me tonight was the idea that healing doesn't always happen at all at once. Sometimes it happens one step at a time. Sometimes even baby steps, but at
Yeah,
least it happens. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes it's just about finding one reason to just keep going.
absolutely. For Tim, that reason started with a rescue dog named Murray. And over time, that turned into purpose, helping animals in need, and eventually building a life with Lauren.
See, and let's not leave Lauren out because her story reminds us how real anxiety and depression can be, and how strong a person has to be to face those challenges head on. Stories like this, they remind us that people, often carry more than we realize. See, if
Yeah.
you looked at the two of them, unless, you're Scotty Rourke or one of the psychic mediums, okay, I really don't think you're going to know how much they're struggling.
Yeah.
You might just think they're quiet,
Yeah.
because they're little, and they are. Tim
The
especially.
the one of the things people overlook about when other folks are struggling is that um, that's perseverance. I mean, that's fortitude. That I mean, they're fighting, and that's not easy to do.
Mhm.
To fight to get better. I mean, that's just amazing. I think that recovery from anything is the most badass thing a person can do. I actually have a sign that says that.
Yeah. And it's really true. And you know what? And we did the show tonight, as I said earlier in the show, that not for, talking about anxiety and suicide, which we have spoken about in depression, but we want you to see that, recovery is possible and there is a
Mhm.
way to move forward and have a good life together. And,
Absolutely.
just remember kindness and understanding can make a real difference.
For me, one of the things that stood out is how clearly we see the role that connection and purpose played in both of their journeys. Mental health struggles can feel incredibly isolating. People often believe that they're alone in what they're feeling or that no one else could understand what they're going through. But healing often begins when people find connection, whether it's through relationships, helping others, or discovering a sense of purpose.
See, Tim and Lauren's story shows that even after very difficult periods in people's lives, it's possible to build something meaningful and fulfilling again. And I think that's an important reminder for anyone who may be struggling right now, that the way things feel today does not have to be the way things are going to feel forever.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point. And one thing we've learned from doing this podcast is that so many people have stories like Tim and Lauren's, stories of struggle, but also stories of strength and perseverance.
And sometimes people just need to hear that it's possible to come through on the other side. And tonight's conversation helps one person feel less alone, then it's worth it.
Absolutely. And if you're watching tonight and you find yourself struggling with anxiety or depression or thoughts of unaliving, it's important to remember that help is always available.
Now, you don't have to face those struggles by yourself. Talking to someone, whether it's a counselor, a really trusted friend, or even a support resource, can be an important first step.
If you're someone you know struggling or in crisis, you can call or text 988, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, to speak with a trained therapist anytime or any night.
And
Oh,
again, that number is 988. Okay, don't forget there are people who care and want to help. So I was very impressed. For Lauren's birthday fundraiser on Facebook, I think I mentioned this. She chose the 988 helpline,
yeah.
okay, to raise money for. That's something we all can do to help raise fund and support for those in need. Because, it's funny because I thought we were the only ones that constantly hounded the 988 helpline. But when I watch other shows, other podcasts, they're all pushing this 988 helpline. And I think, if that's the least we can do is to raise money for something like that,
Absolutely.
it just takes a click of a button on Facebook and you might raise $200, $300, $400. Now remember to click the like button and subscribe to our channel. Costs you nothing, but helps get the message out to more people. See, over 20,000 of you are watching. But you know what? Only 25% have subscribed. So remember to visit the YourLifeMattersPodcast.com. Learn more about the show. Maybe you want to become a guest. Maybe you have a story of recovery you want to talk about.
We'd love to hear it.
Yep. There's past episodes, a link there, and so much more. And of course, let's not forget the merchandise also.
As always, we want to thank you for joining us for the Your Life Matters Show podcast.
See, Dr. Davis and I truly believe that conversations like this matter, and sharing real stories can make a big difference.
Until next time, take care of yourselves, reach out to others who you believe need help and are struggling. And if you need help, it is not a sign of weakness, but rather a show of strength in asking for help.
And please never forget, your life matters. God bless you, and we hope to see you again next week.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Your Life Matters Show podcast. If today's conversation resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share the episode so more people can be part of these important conversations around mental health. And remember, your life matters. We hope to see you again next week.